Welcome to Tales Unwound. You are with Emma.
And Adam. Today, Thor sets out to catch the serpent that holds the world together, and a frightened giant changes the ending.
Welcome to Tales Unwound, the deep dive podcast from the Tales Unwound channel. I am Emma.
And I am Adam. Today we take one of the old myths and we open it all the way up. The version you grew up with is the tip of it. We want the whole shape underneath.
Today's story is cold, and it is wet, and it is, without exaggeration, a story about the end of the world.
And the strange thing is, it is told almost like a fishing trip.
It's a fishing trip. That is the whole frame of it. The god of thunder goes out in a small boat to do something simple, catch something big, and what he hooks is the thing that is going to kill him at the end of time.
Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent. Thor versus the serpent that circles the earth.
Before we even get to the boat, let's talk about what is coiled out there in the water. Because Jormungandr is not a fish. Jormungandr is an architectural feature of the Norse universe.
Exactly. The Norse saw the world as a flat disk. Midgard, the middle enclosure, the human world, is a ring of land. Around Midgard is the outer ocean. And around that ocean, wrapped all the way around the rim of the world, is the serpent.
Tail in its own jaws. A closed loop. The ocean is its cage and the world is what it is guarding.
The poets say that when Jormungandr lets go of its tail, that is the signal. That is the moment the world starts to end.
So the serpent holding the world together is also the serpent that ends the world. The containment and the doom are the same creature.
And the Norse are fine with that. That is very Norse. The thing that protects you is also the thing that buries you. Nothing is clean in their cosmology.
Where does Jormungandr come from, though? We should say that.
From Loki. All three of the monsters of Ragnarok come from Loki. The wolf Fenrir, the serpent Jormungandr, and Hel, who rules the dead. 3 children, 3 different mothers in some tellings, and all 3 are problems the gods can't just solve.
The gods try. They always try. With Jormungandr, they try to get rid of the problem by throwing it into the outer sea when it is still young.
Odin looks at this serpent and says, "Into the deep with it." And the serpent keeps growing. In the water, it grows until it circles the whole earth and bites its own tail. Exile did not contain it. Exile made it.
There is a lesson in there that the Norse never quite stop telling. You do not solve a thing by throwing it away. The thing becomes the edge of your world.
And then there is Thor, and Thor does not accept an edge.
Thor is the one who keeps showing up in these stories wanting to draw the line. Against giants, against monsters, against the serpent. Thor is never at peace with the monstrous things at the rim.
So of all the gods, Thor is the one who hates Jormungandr the most. The poets are very clear about this. Thor, above all living things, hated the serpent.
Why is that personal for him, though? Why is it Thor specifically?
A few reasons layered together. Thor is the defender of Midgard, the protector of humans. Jormungandr is the literal perimeter of Midgard. So the thing Thor is sworn to protect has this monster pressed up against its wall at all times.
Every coastline is its body. Every storm is it moving.
And then there is the prophecy. At Ragnarok, Thor kills Jormungandr, walks 9 steps from the corpse, and then drops dead from its venom. They kill each other. They are fated to.
So Thor already knows. Every time he thinks about that serpent, he is looking at the thing that is going to kill him.
And Thor's response to knowing that is not to avoid it. Thor's response is, "Let me try and finish it today."
This is where the fishing trip begins. One night, Thor comes to the hall of a giant named Hymir.
Hymir, not one of the famous giants, just a big cold figure who lives out near the outer sea with a boat. And one morning he goes fishing. That is the hook the myth uses.
And Thor, who is a god, shows up at the door of this giant disguised as something he is not, a traveler, a young man. Hymir does not know who he is dealing with.
This is already a very Norse setup. Disguises, hospitality, tension at the table, nobody is saying what they really want.
Hymir is uneasy the whole time. The poems say he looked at the stranger's arms, and they were thick as oak roots. He could feel something was wrong.
A guest who is too strong is a problem in Norse literature. You can't turn a guest away. But a guest who can tear your hall down is not a guest. It is a countdown.
So morning comes and Hymir rises to go fishing, and Thor invites himself along.
And Hymir tries to get out of it politely. He says, "You will not be able to keep up with me. You are too young. My fishing is not a beginner's trip."
That is the polite version. There is also a sharper line in the sources. Hymir basically says none of my bait would suit someone like you. He is trying to shame this guest off the boat.
Which is a mistake.
Because Thor walks out to the giant's herd, grabs the largest black ox, and rips the head off.
One motion. No ceremony. Just tears the skull from the shoulders and carries it down to the boat and drops it in the bottom of the boat like a stone.
And that is the moment Hymir understands what he has on his boat. But it is too late. The stranger has brought his own bait.
And the bait is enormous. The bait alone is what a giant would bring home as the trophy of a good hunt. And here it is being treated as a thing you put on a hook.
Let's pause and stay with Hymir for a second. Because Hymir is the most underrated character in this story.
Agreed. Everybody remembers the serpent and Thor. Hymir is the guy who makes the whole thing possible and then does the thing that rewrites fate.
Hymir is not the villain here. Hymir is not even a bad host. Hymir is a giant who wakes up thinking he is going fishing for whales, which is already a brave day, and ends up on a boat with a god who is trying to end the world.
Hymir is the first person in the story who realizes what is actually happening, and what he sees horrifies him.
So they go. They push off from the shore. They row.
And this is where the myth starts doing something really deliberate. Distance. The Norse love to use distance. How far out you go tells you what kind of story you are in.
Hymir rows to his usual spot, where whales come. A place where a giant can catch something giant-sized and feel proud.
Thor is not impressed. Thor keeps rowing.
Past Hymir's usual reefs, past the safe water, past the place where a giant feels brave.
And Hymir is shaking his head at him, saying, "We can't go farther. We do not fish here. This is where the monsters sleep." And Thor keeps rowing.
There is a line in one of the old poems that just stays with me. They rowed out past the place where Hymir was willing to cast.
So we have a god rowing past the edge of what a giant considers reasonable. That is a space you don't normally go into.
That is the geography of the story. Hymir is the edge of normal. Thor goes past it.
Eventually they stop. They are in water the Norse call lightless, a trench, a pit in the seafloor. You can feel the pressure in how they describe it. Nothing has lived here. Nothing has eaten here. It is not a fishing spot. It is a grave.
And Thor baits his hook with the ox head, and he lets it drop.
And down it goes. Through gray water, through dark water, through black water.
And something is waiting.
But the bait is in the water. The god is in the boat. The serpent is about to take the hook.
Let's take a breath before we go under.
Deep breath. Because once we go into the water, the story changes. Up to this point, it is still a folktale. A giant and a strong stranger on a boat. After this point, it is a cosmic event.
What swallows the bait? Let's name it again. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, born of Loki, exiled by Odin, grown in the outer sea until it wraps around the world.
Its body is the reason you cannot sail past the horizon. Its body is the reason sailors talk about the edge like a wall. That is not a metaphor. It is a scaled wall down there.
And its mouth is somewhere. Its mouth is on its tail. Always.
Except when it is not. Because the story we are telling is the story where it lets go. It opens its mouth for the ox head.
The hook bites deep into the roof of its mouth.
And at that moment, everything that is holding the world together unhooks.
The serpent is now on a line, on a small wooden boat, being held by a god.
In a trench in the outer sea that nobody is supposed to be in.
The line goes tight. The poems describe it as tight as a ship's cable in a storm.
And the boat lurches sideways. Thor braces.
This is my favorite image in all of Norse mythology. Thor braces so hard that his feet go through the wooden floor of the boat.
Right through. The planks break. His legs punch down into the sea. He is standing on the sea bottom. He is using the ocean floor as his footing.
He is physically larger in this moment than the boat can hold. The boat is not a container for Thor anymore. The boat is a detail. Thor is braced between the ceiling of the world and the floor of the ocean.
And that is the only way he can pull. Because what he is pulling is a world ring.
And Jörmungandr pulls back with the weight of the world. Because Jormungandr is the weight of the world. It is what the ocean rests on. It is the edge.
So now you have two forces. The thunder god above, the world ring below, and a rope between them.
And the sea boils. The poems do not exaggerate about this. The ocean is literally boiling from the pressure of that line.
Lightning is running along the line. Thor's own energy traveling down the rope because he is pulling that hard.
Hymir is in the back of the boat, curled up, shaking. This is the giant. Remember, the giant is the one who is afraid.
Hymir's the witness. Hymir is the stand-in for us. For anyone who is seeing the cosmic unfold in a small boat and realizing they cannot hide from it.
And then, after however long, minutes, hours, the poems are vague because the poems know better than to put a clock on this. The serpent's head breaks the surface.
It breaches. It comes up into the air. Thor sees it.
And Thor sees, for the first time in his life, the thing he has been swearing to kill. Not pressed against a coastline from a distance. Face to face.
The jaws open. The fangs are described as the length of spears. The venom drips into the boiling water.
And the eyes. The eyes are burning. The serpent knows him. The serpent knows who is holding the line.
This is the cosmic moment. For one suspended heartbeat, the god who is fated to kill it and the monster who is fated to kill him are looking at each other.
And Ragnarok is supposed to be thousands of years away.
And Thor is trying to move it up to today.
He raises Mjolnir. That is what the poets describe. He raises the hammer to deliver the killing blow.
Hymir is watching this.
Mjolnir is in the air. The serpent is hooked. The god and the monster are eye to eye. The entire fate of the Norse universe is sitting on one small boat.
Before we let the hammer fall, let's talk about what Hymir is seeing. Because the story turns on Hymir.
Hymir is a giant. Remember, we talk about Norse giants as if they are always the enemy, and in Ragnarok they are. But Hymir in this moment is not the enemy. Hymir is horrified.
And I don't think Hymir is horrified of the serpent.
That is the reading that gets me. Hymir is horrified of the god.
Hymir is watching Thor about to kill the serpent, and what he sees is not victory. What he sees is the end.
Because if Thor kills Jörmungandr today, the serpent lets go of its tail. The ocean spills. The world comes apart.
Hymir is the only being on that boat who understands that killing Jormungandr early is not winning. Killing Jormungandr early is pulling the pin.
And Hymir is in the way of that.
Hymir has a knife.
And Hymir, the giant, the cowering one, the unimportant one, does the thing that the poem remembers him for. He draws his knife, and he cuts the line.
Just cuts it.
The line parts. The serpent falls back. The whole weight of the world goes with it.
Back into the trench. Back into the black water. Wounded. Hooked but still in the sea.
And Thor is standing in a half-broken boat with Mjolnir in the air and nothing to hear.
The rage of Thor. The poems are careful with this. Thor's rage is a weather system. When Thor is angry, the sky changes.
And there is a giant standing in front of him, who has just taken the end of the world out of his hands.
Thor strikes Hymir. Most of the versions agree on this. Thor hits the giants. Some say he knocks him into the sea. Some say worse. Hymir does not survive the trip home.
And that is the cost. That is the price of cutting the line. Hymir pays for it.
And the god wades home because he cannot row anymore. The boat is half gone. He walks back through the tide.
Imagine that image. Thor, wet, bearded, carrying the broken hook, walking out of the sea onto a stony shore at dawn. The storm is clearing.
And knowing, not guessing, knowing that the thing he was going to kill today is still alive and that the two of them are going to meet again at the end of the world and it is going to kill him when they do.
So who won this story?
That is the question the Norse want us to sit with.
On paper, Thor lost. He did not kill the serpent. He killed the giant, but the giant was the one who saved the world.
Jormungandr lost something too. It was wounded. The poems are specific. The serpent was hurt. Blood in the water. Venom leaking. It sank wounded and hating.
And fate itself, the scheduled ending of the world, that got rewritten. Because today was supposed to be normal. Today was not Ragnarok. But Thor tried to force Ragnarok to be today.
The Norse believe very strongly in fate, where the weave. But they also tell the story where a god reaches up and tries to pull the ending forward by 1,000 years.
And a giant, with one nervous cut, pushes the ending back.
Fate bends around Hymir's knife.
That is the Norse answer. Fate is not rigid. Fate is a line that can be cut for a while.
The serpent will come back. The gods know the serpent will come back. But not today.
Hymir's cut buys the world time, and the world does not know to thank him.
Let's talk about what this story is really about. Because I don't think it is only about Thor being heroic.
I don't either. I think this story is Norse pessimism in its purest form.
Thor is a hero. Yes. Thor is brave. Yes. Thor rose past the edge of the world with an ox head. Yes. But Thor was also, in this moment, wrong.
Thor was going to end the world to prove something. And a frightened giant stopped him.
And the giant was right. The giant was the one in the story who understood scale.
The Norse love doing this. They love taking their gods and showing us that their gods are not infallible. Odin is wise and cruel. Loki is charming and catastrophic. Thor is brave and sometimes reckless beyond measure.
Thor in the fishing boat is a god so focused on the monster he hates that he does not see the monster as the world.
And Hymir, the lesser creature, is the one with perspective.
There's also a story here about knowing when you are fighting the wrong fight. Thor has the right enemy, but the wrong moment.
Every time he has gone out against Jörmungandr, he has gone out too early. The fated day of Ragnarok is the only day Thor is meant to win. And he keeps trying to win early.
And every time he tries to win early, something cuts the line.
Let's end with Ragnarok, because the story is not complete without it.
At the end of the world, the serpent does let go of its tail. On its own. Not hooked this time. Not pulled up, it releases the ocean. The sea rises.
And Thor meets Jörmungandr on land, out in the open, on a plain.
And this time there is no giant to cut the line.
Thor kills it with Mjolnir. The fated blow finally lands.
And then Thor walks 9 steps. And the venom takes him, and he falls.
A draw. Both sides dead, the god and the monster.
So the fishing trip was a rehearsal, a premature rehearsal, and Hymir's knife preserved the play.
That is how I want to leave Thor and Jörmungandr. Not in triumph, not in defeat, in suspension, hooked in dark water, waiting.
Waiting for the tail to unclench.
Thank you so much for listening to Tales Unwound.
If this story spoke to you, a quiet action helps more than anything flashy. Follow the channel, leave a comment, tell us what you heard in Hymir that we might have missed.
Next on Tales Unwound, we are staying in the north. We are going to the moment the gods chain a wolf, Hymir, son of Loki, brother to the serpent we met today. The gods bind him with something that should not exist. It is a cheat. The wolf knows it is a cheat, and the wolf decides to let it happen anyway for a price.
The binding of Hymir. Until then, take care of each other and watch the waterline.
We'll see you next time on Tales Unwound. If this one stayed with you, follow the show. That is how more people find us.
Next week on Tales Unwound, we stay in the cold north. The gods bind a wolf with something that should not exist. The wolf lets it happen anyway for a price. The binding of Hymir.
I am Emma.
I am Adam.
This was Tales Unwound. Stay well.